This show is brought to you in part by viewers like you who joined a Patreon or become YouTube members. Thank you. And if you could, hit the like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
Had to bring him back on after the rousing reception that he got on the channel just a few weeks ago. Mr. TYVIS Powell on the show with us today. TYVIS, man, how you doing?
You know what? I'm doing well. You know what I'm saying? I got some things that's going on in my life right now. I'm in that situation where a lot of good is happening, and I'm kind of anticipating something bad to happen, but I'm enjoying the good because, like, right now, life is just too good. Something bad has to happen soon. So I'm just bracing myself for that.
TYVIS Powell on. A lot of fun things to talk about. First thing we'll talk about is the Shedeur Sanders thing is interesting, right? And I think there are interesting conversations to be had. Mm-hmm. Nationally, we're not having any of those interesting conversations, right? Like, it's more about like pointing the finger, who to blame, having this like debate about Shedeur and if the tape was good all of a sudden when we thought the tape was good in pre-draft. But my question to you is like, when I go through the pre-draft process nowadays, and I'm looking at this just from the outsider perspective, and I'm seeing less and less guys participate, and less guys like kind of take the process seriously. And then like Shedeur comes around and then gets punished for not taking the process as seriously. When I'm like, there were guys that were really not taking it seriously behind him. And then you look at like some of the stuff where I'm like, yeah, I think it would have helped him to play in the Senior Bowl or actually play at the East-West Shrine and maybe even run like, I don't think he had to run a 40 because I don't know what that 40 going to look like for him.
Yeah, no, he
like,
would. If you ain't running 4.5 or something like that, or 4.6, don't even put your hand down. That's what Dion would have told him that. Don't even put your hand down.
Yeah, but maybe hit a 3 cone, show people you quick still, right? Like, something like agile if you got it. I don't know if he got it. Like, there are clearly issues, and I point this out with them in the pre-draft process with how they went about it. But I did not think that those pre-draft issues would drop him from day 1 to day 3. I was like, this might drop on to day 2, right? Because there's too many questions about him.
Yeah.
Day 2 to day 3, that feels like it's about something else at that point entirely, right?
Yeah.
Like, what was your perspective if you watched him fall? Because you were somebody who, I don't think you were advocating to take him at 2, but you were fine with the idea of the Browns going quarterback. And if that quarterback was Shedeur, then you could understand it.
Yeah. No, I mean, when I watched him drop, I was like, well, clearly, there's something. Anytime a player drops, there is really only 2 things. One, if it's medical, like something came up in the medical where, like Will Johnson from the Wolverines, he was a bona fide first-round pick, but he ended up going second round to the Cardinals because something about his knee. So when something like that happens, all right. And then the next thing is, did you bomb the interview process? Because what people don't realize is, as I went through my process, I had moments like the Brian Daboll story came out with Shedeur, with the Giants. Something about, he was asked to know something for a meeting, get up, draw it, and then be able to understand the adjustments off of it and things like that. And Shedeur. And so, yeah, with Brian Daboll and Shedeur, I don't know what happened. Obviously, they told him to be prepared for the meeting. He had to study like a play or something like that and understand the adjustments off the play. And I guess he drew up something, and then Brian Daboll asked him, all right, what about an adjustment? And he didn't have that answer. And I was in a similar situation, when I was coming out. Aaron Glenn was like, he drew up something on the board and was like, yeah, this is how we run our cover 3. And I got up on the board and I tried to teach it back to him, but my terminology was different. So in college, I might have called it a buzz player, but in the NFL, they might call it a hook player. So when I kept saying buzz, he was like, that's not what I'm telling you. That's not the correct. And I'm like, you just drew it up. Like, that's what it is. But the terminology is big. And if Shedeur had that same thing, he probably got frustrated and they had some back and forth. Now, what I will say is, although that interview for Shedeur went bad, I think it did teach him a valuable lesson that terminology is big. I need to be prepared for these meetings and things like that. So I think, and then you start to hear more reports come out about, you know, maybe he big time somebody, or he blew this interview, or he came off as cocky and stuff in that. And I guess what happened is, personally, people just kind of, he rubbed people the wrong way. And you asked what's the difference between, him doing that and then like a Marvin Harrison who went through last year and didn't do anything. He ain't work out for nobody. He ain't do nothing. Well, Marvin
Mhm.
Harrison's tape is undeniable. There is
That's
no
true.
flaw. There's no flaws in his tape when you turn it on. Shador's biggest knock for me was that he did it only in the Big 12 conference. If he was in the Big 10 or the SEC and he put up them similar stats, I don't think people really would say anything, because the competition level is great in the Big 10 or the SEC. You do it against the Big 12, okay, it is what it is. So I think that came back to bite him a little bit.
Yeah, I think in general, my whole thesis with the Sanders thing is like, this is the difficult thing when you have people that love you represent you, is that they love you, right? And it's like,
Mhm.
if my son was Shador Sanders, I think he Peyton Manning too.
Yeah.
But that's not how anybody else viewed him. And then there's that aspect of, you put him on a pedestal that a lot of NFL teams did not believe he belonged on. I could think it's fair to say, I think they kind of viewed him as a top 5 pick, and NFL teams did not view him as a top 5 pick, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're on a pedestal that you don't belong on, or at least it feels like you're being put up on one, that's when all the nasty come out, right? Because it's like, okay, let's take him off that pedestal. He really ain't that good, right? You know when it starts to go, right? And I
Yeah.
think that was something that kind of happened to him with these GMs, because, like, okay, I thought he was like a late first, early second pick. So I think the slide out the first day, that wasn't surprising, but it did make the slide out of day 2 shocking to me, where I'm like, all right, what is going
Yeah.
on here?
I mean,
Like,
because coming out of the draft, I thought people knew Cam Ward was the best quarterback. They would say he was quarterback 1. And then when
mhm.
you got to quarterback 2, the only 2 people that people really talked about was Dart and Shador. So when I seen Cam and Dart go day 1, I said, oh, well, then it's obvious that Shador will be the next guy off the board. And then you started seeing Tyler Shuck go, or you see Dylan Gabriel, and I'm just sitting there like, all right, now it's now it's like, is it about the tape? Because, like, don't get me wrong,
Mhm.
I've listened to a bunch of people break his tape down and talk about his tape, and everybody says he has the tangible skills to be a good quarterback in the NFL. He got some things he's got to clean up, but ultimately he should be a good quarterback. Franchise, I don't know. That's different. But to be a good average quarterback, he has all the traits to do those things. So that's when I'm like, all right, this is personal. Like, it seems more personal than not. It's like the league then ganged up and was like, yeah, we gonna try to humble this dude or something like that. And
I don't, I
like
don't think,
that, go
yeah,
ahead.
I don't think the league ganged up on him intentionally. I think what happened here was like, it's quarterback. And the second people get cold feet about you at quarterback, even like with Cam Newton, we saw this, where it's like, oh, Cam can't be nobody's backup anymore. Because I remember, like, a couple years ago, I was like, it would make sense for the Browns to bring Cam in to be the backup, right?
Yeah.
And then everybody like, Cam Newton, you can't do Cam Newton, right? Like, and it just came like, everybody just was so against the idea. And then it's like, people would
Well, you
bring up, oh,
don't.
it's all the other things about Cam and all this shit. And I'm like, I think that might have been what happened, because, like, you're
You
not going
don't.
to
You don't. You don't want your backup quarterback to be this polarizing figure, because it brings a lot of attention. And I
and then I think whenever they were on watching the draft, right, in those rooms, what's happening? You're seeing like 3 commercials with 3 separate brands. And who's the face of it? It's Shador. And you're thinking to yourself, how are we going to bring this dude in not to compete for the starting job, Look at how much press he has already, right? Like that has to be a factor. If you're in the 5th round trying to pick a guy and you see a guy's commercial come up, NFL coaches are gonna be like, oh, well, it's gonna be a distraction. Like they're gonna fall into that whole thing. And I'm like, that must have had to do a lot once he got out of 40, like where nobody thought he was gonna start anymore. It's like, okay, now this dude's more famous than everybody in your quarterback room.
The distraction thing, like that's loaded to me. Like
Absolutely.
I don't know what people think goes on in NFL buildings, but it's not. I promise you, it's not what you think. Like, all right, I'll give you a typical day in the NFL during the season. During the season, typically for me, if you got hurt or something like that and you need treatment, you got to be there at 6 a.m. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You got to be there at 6 a.m. in the training room. But let's say you're not hurt, say you fine. Usually typically get in the building about 7:15. You get you some breakfast, and then special teams meetings start anywhere from 7:45 to 8 o'clock. Those special teams meetings is 15 minutes long. After that special teams meeting, you go right into team meeting. Coach gets up, he talks about the game plan from last game, talks about the game plan this week, what he want to see out of the team, blah, 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 blah. That meeting takes about 15 to 20 minutes. After that, you break off in offense and defense. You go talk to you break up with your offense and they let the OC talk, the defense let the DC talk. They talk about game plan again, blah, 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 blah. This is what we're gonna do, blah, blah, blah. Then after that, you go to individual meetings, position meetings. So for me, I went to the DB room, sat with the DBs, watched tape some more, blah, blah, blah. After that, you go, it's time to get taped and you get to eat lunch. You get that about an hour. After that, you got practice. Practice is from an hour and a half to maybe 2 hours on some weeks. Then after that, you eat lunch or you eat dinner, whatever you want to call it, and you watch
Unless you're in
tape.
Cincinnati.
You
When they
watch
don't.
tape and then boom, you out. That's a typical day. So during that, what I just told you, you in the locker room for 3 times a day out of that, what I just said, there's not a lot of time for you to be a distraction.
Mm.
Because you're so busy trying to learn the game plan, trying to learn about the team that you're going up against, trying to figure out what you need to work on to be better. So I don't understand like people like, oh, distract. The only people that's a distraction is the national media. Yes, the national media is going to check in on Shador to see how he's doing because he's the son of Dion, who's one of the best football players to ever play the game. So they're just checking in. It's the same thing with Bronny. They're going to check in to see, oh, this is what he's been doing, blah, 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 blah. But that's not a distraction to anybody that's on the team because that has nothing to do. I'm worried about being good for me. I'm worried about
Mm-hmm.
defensive stuff or the tight end. The Joku's worried about David and the Joku. Like there's no time to be caught up in the Shador hype because you don't have that time.
Yeah, yeah. I just wonder. I don't know how he fell all the way to the 5th. It is crazy to me. Now let's talk about the other quarterback the Browns have taken there, Dylan Gabriel, because his tape is in the Big Ten, but 70% of his passes at Oregon, 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage. And this is not just Dylan, right? This isn't like Oregon just started doing this with Dylan. They've done this with every quarterback they've had. And with him, I'm like, it's a tough evaluation because 5'11", 1/8 inch in the NFL is not ideal height at the quarterback position. Now, I know some people are going to step in and say, hey, the height don't matter. Sometimes
It's a different day and age because I used to be in the minority. I used to be like, no, if you short, like now you got to worry about batted balls. And to be honest with you, Bryce Young is short, Baker's short, Kyler Murray's short. They don't really get a lot of balls batted. And all you have to do, what you have to do as a play caller is you have to move the pocket. You gotta roll, maybe you gotta roll him out a little bit so he can get a clear picture. I make a long story short. Kevin Stefanski worked with Baker Mayfield. He knows how to work with a short quarterback.
Yeah, yeah. Look, passing lanes are going to be important there, right? And you're going to roll them out and everything else. There is going to be limits on how much you can do that in the AFC North, like when they have these edges.
You ain't rolling into TJ, so I'll just tell you that.
Right, like
No.
there are ultimately going to be limitations to what he could do if he could achieve it at the NFL level. But there are things you look at Dylan Gabriel, and if you just go to his college football reference page, you're like, dude, this dude, look at the numbers he done put up. He was balling.
Yeah.
But then you see like the kind of offenses he was in, and especially in the offense he was in at Oregon, it's like, I don't know how to, like, I'm not going to even act like I understand how to evaluate that and project that to the NFL. Because, like, I don't think you're going to see a ton of that outside of maybe Cliff Kingsbury might run something similar because he was king of, like, just throw check downs at Texas Tech. So maybe you might be able to do something like that over there. But even there, he's not as behind the line, especially in Washington, as he is right now. So when you look at Dylan, does the left-handed thing bother you? Because it doesn't bother me.
No. I mean, because if you think about it, right now our biggest concern is left tackle, but we know who the right tackle is, and he's pretty good. So at least his blind side is protected. So I think it works out. That works out in the Browns' favor if Dylan was to start. But
Yeah.
yeah, the left hand thing don't bother. Vic was left-handed, and I loved it.
Yeah, well, and he gonna get rid of the ball quickly anyway. Like, I don't think pressure gonna really become an issue for him. I think the big question for him is, like, can he see over the middle of the field, and, like, what does he have once NFL teams key in on the fact that he's really good rolling right and left, right? Like, if he rolls right and left, throws on the run, that's when you see some of Dylan Gabriel's best stuff. And that was the thing with Baker, right? Like 2018 Baker, who was like completely different than who we see now. But Baker's rookie year is like, oh, this dude's amazing when he rolls out, right? And then 2019 came around and they ain't let that shit happen no more, right? Like, so I think with Dylan, it's like, okay, I think he's going to be able to have early success because he can't do that at a high enough level. And his arm it's not popcorn. He could push it downfield, right? A lot better than like DTR. DTR was like struggled in college pushing it downfield. Just once the teams catch on that that's what you can do, is that all you can do, right? And I worry, like at 5'11", you ask to do something else. Like Baker was almost 6'1", man. Like he's not almost 6'1".
We not listen. We not about to see. First of all, Baker was 6 foot. Okay,
6 foot and like a half. Like over at 5'8", right? He was 6 foot 5'8".
He better
you can
give him
round that boy up.
Listen, Dylan got to put the long study cleats on, and he'll be 6'1". Now listen,
put the long studs. You
got
have that man anchored into the grass. We play on natural grass, TYVIS. That's not good.
No, I think, to be honest with you, though, I think that they looked at him and they seen, all right, he's got Kevin. They already came out and said what they want. They want a guy that makes good decisions, that takes care of the football, and that's got a little bit of mobility. He has all three of those things. And the one thing that you can say about Dylan Gabriel, probably better than anybody else in this draft, is they talk about time, playing on time. He probably played on time majority than anybody else. Everybody else holds the ball a little bit because they want to do the good play. They want to get the great play and not take the good play. He's pretty quick in his decision of what he's going to do and get the ball out of his hand because he knows he's short. And I think when you look at this draft class, you think about Kevin taking the play calling over. I think we'll see a lot of 12 personnel because that'll force the nickel off the field. That'll force you in base with another linebacker out there. Now you're asking a linebacker to check these two very athletic tight ends. So I think that creates a mismatch. You don't have to worry about having three really good wide receivers. You can roll Judy and Tillman out there, and you got three running backs that can be very effective. And on top of that, you got a quarterback that can run the boot and actually pick up yards with his legs because he's very sneaky athletic. So I think when you look at it that aspect, it just kind of tells you exactly what Kevin wants. It's not like Kevin always wanted to hit the deep ball or anything like that. No, he wants to run a good play action. He want to hit that over route. He want to throw that tight end on the drag or something like that. He want to throw a bang eight. That wide receiver take that 7-step cut in and that ball right there. Like those, like it just for some odd reason, Dylan just kind of fits what Kevin wants to do. And so does Shador. Shador ran similar things as well in college. That's why I think it's an easy transition. It's going to be actually fun to watch both of these two guys compete for these jobs.
Hey, look, the Browns plan on offense is very obvious and very simple. They got running backs who go get their head down and get ahead of the sticks.
Yep.
And then they got the perfect personnel to run 2 plays. Drive,
that's it.
mesh. Like they gonna run nothing but mesh round.
Yeah. You're gonna get
drive.
you're gonna get a bang game out of Judy.
Maybe a smash here and there, right? Like,
it's not gonna be. It ain't gonna be no Andy Reid with a lot of creativity and none of that. It's gonna be a very simple thing that's gonna test your discipline. If you discipline, it'll be a long day. But if you biting that cheese and you biting play action and thing like that, it's gonna be a long day.
And that's I think I give Dillon Gabriel a lot of credit for in that Oregon offense. You got to be okay with doing the boring shit in that Oregon offense because it's very boring. I almost fell asleep watching tape. Like I was like, this is the most boring offense to watch. And I think that's why you hear a lot of polarizing stuff about Oregon quarterbacks when they come out. Because even it happened with Justin Herbert, where people are like, oh, we're not sure this and that about him. I take Tua over him, and it's like 90%. That offense is really boring to watch because they take care of the football at Oregon like OD, especially with Dan Lanning, right? And yeah, I think that him being able to demonstrate at Oregon, I am not gonna break the script just to get some excitement going, which you look at some other guys. I think Shedeur is going to have a little bit of that problem where I'm like, sometimes he gets bored, right? Like sometimes he wants to play outside of himself. Dillon Gabriel will never have the issue of trying to play outside of himself. He is always going to play within himself. You might have an issue where it's like, Dillon, I need you to realize you could do more than what you're giving yourself credit to with him. Or like you look at somebody like Cam Ward where I'm like, I have no faith that dude's gonna be like, yeah, man, let me do more shit. Because
he's not gonna do that.
He's not trying to do that at all. So I do give Dillon a lot of credit because, like, hey, he handled mundaneness better than anybody else could. The question is, was he able to be successful in spite of the mundaneness of the Oregon offense? Or was that necessary for him to be successful? You never know with dudes from Oregon, right? Like, you never know. That's why they're all tough evaluations. We'll see what happens with Dillon here